The meeting to order. We do have an established quorum.
Okay.
We have myself, John. I'll call the meeting to order and I have to go through the roll call. John, you're on mute. Lower left. There you go.
There we go. Here.
Brooke, you're on mute.
I am here also.
Yeah. Jill.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, and staff is Rachel.
Here.
And Ann. Okay.
Here.
Does anybody have a total of everything we've given out? And so we know how much is left? That's usually what it comes down to with those two big entities.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Hold on, I have it.
I'm starting out with 749,172.14 in requests. Are you starting out with that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So then if we add, Brooke, are you adding the ones that we have here, including the 3 that we cut down?
Okay, so what I show in my chart, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the amount requested from a safe place was 55, and we tentatively voted to fund 55.
Yep.
The amount requested for ASAP was 50, and we voted to level fund at 44.2, keeping it the same as what we funded last year.
Yes.
Yep. The Artist Association, 22,100 was the request. We level funded from last year at 18.2,
yep.
18,200. Cape Mediation, 2206. We gave them 2206 tentatively, and I'm saying that. Elder Services requested 20, and we tentatively voted 20.
Yep.
We passed over Fairwinds, went to Health Imperatives that requested 90, and we agreed to 90. Yep. Interfaith Council, NFFRA, Food Pantry, Rental Assistance, 85 is the request. And I believe we did 70, which is a level fund from last year.
Yes.
Martha's Vineyard Community Services, 18. We agreed on 18. Small Friends, 50. Oh, we skipped over the Cottage Hospital. Small Friends, 15. We did 15, and South Coast Legal Services, 4,600, 4,600. So
okay, total.
So that's third. So what's the total requested? Because my spreadsheet.
150,000 was the total, and it looks like you've tentatively approved 247,205.80.
Hold on, 200 and what?
Is that right?
Say that again, Rachel.
I have 247,205.80.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing
it.
For a total.
Oh, for total. Sorry, I thought you said the request.
No.
That doesn't sound right.
Hold on, let me just.
Okay, let's see.
No.
Here, do you want me to share my screen and you can see where maybe there's a hole?
I think it's 33. Mine says 337,206 is what we expended.
All right, hold on.
So NCH Health Imperatives.
Fairway. Let me go through them again.
Hold on.
A safe place is 55,000.
It's easier if we go down the list that we have.
ASAP, 44,200. Elder Services, 20,000. South Coast Legal Services, 4,600. Interfaith, 70,000. Martha's Vineyard,
18.
Says MVY, 18. Small Friends, 15,000. Artists Association, 18,200. Cape Mediation, 2,205.80.
Did you have Health Imperatives in there at 90?
Nope, that's the one that's missing.
That's the one that's missing. So I get
337,205.80.
Yep.
Hold on. 337 what? 205.80.
337,205.80 cents.
All right, subtract that from 650.
Okay. So we have 312,794 rounded.
That's pretty much what we had last year to spread between those two, if we stayed with that. What do we got here for requests? Cottage Hospital 211, And Fairwinds 176. Okay.
So they,
I know there's some questions about the Cottage Hospital still. Because we have 387,446.34 left.
Right.
Those are requests. So we're
Yeah, so
75,000 short.
Yeah, it's about 74,650.
Is there any reason to split the difference?
Change?
We've done that before, Jill. We have split the difference between the two.
Do we feel
And just remember, if you do that, you need to break out where the money is going.
Fine. Yeah.
Brooke has her hand raised, Linda.
Yep.
or 60-40 or something of that money left because maybe because NCH asked for a little bit more than Fairwinds.
Linda?
Yeah.
Colin, Brooke.
See, I can't see hands up.
I know.
Who's got a hand up? Anybody?
I do. Brooke.
Okay.
So here's the dilemma I have in my head. The Cottage Hospital, we've talked about access to alternative fundraising and resources.
Yeah.
The fundraising capacity of the hospital is
Huge.
multiples of the fundraising capacity of Fairwinds. I just feel like my gut tells me we should skew toward Fairwinds if we're gonna. I am really supportive of the psychiatric services piece, which is sort of their additional request. I think this year over past years, I think the need access to psychiatric services for people is really difficult, regardless of whether you're insured, uninsured. Just getting access to psychiatry time is so I would skew toward funding Fairwinds. That's just my gut.
The hospital seems to find a way to support what they ask for if we cut them, because every single year we have had to cut them. I tend to agree with you. Jill, John, opinions on this?
Well, I think in the past years, I've been less inclined to be as favorable to Fairwinds as I am this year, because they've got their home in order or their house in order. And so I'm kind of leaning the same way, that if we're going to shade it one way or the other, we shade it to Fairwinds.
Can I ask a question? One thing that came up, I think, I just want to make sure I understood this correctly, is it sounds like, so the hospital is really asking, the bulk of what they're asking for covers the ambulance services, right? I mean, that's like the majority of what they line itemed, I think. And it sounds like the only way they get to bring an ambulance over and take someone off for transport, I understood it. I mean, it has to be through a psychiatrist. So it's kind of Fairwinds has to make the recommendation, maybe. I mean, any psychiatrist can, I realize that. But it seems like those two things go hand in hand a little bit. Does that, am I saying that right?
Are we talking about the hospital, the ambulance
program? And then like you have to be recommended by a psychiatrist. I mean, Fairwinds can't just call up and say, hey, you got to take this person off island.
Well, it's not just that. The ambulance also transports people that cannot, because of aneurysms or whatever, go up in a med flight. And they have, the ambulance comes over and gets somebody from the hospital, not necessarily a psychiatric patient, and takes them over to Cape Cod. I thought it was
only psychiatric patients that they didn't cover the cost for at NCH. I thought that's what it was. So maybe
Oh, I didn't parse it out to
I think
just
it relates to behavioral health transports, but maybe not all. Like if somebody needs an inpatient rehab or a detox, I'm not sure that has to be an order by a psychiatrist.
Right.
Let me look at.
I thought that's what I heard. And I know last year when they came before us, when they actually had the article to cover the money, which they ended up pulling, but I remember it was all behavioral health, or at least that's just what was highlighted. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, because I know the ambulance takes other people besides behavioral health.
Okay.
Brooke?
So just to be clear, it does not require an MD psychiatrist to section someone and send them to psychiatric care. It's any licensed clinician of any discipline, so psychologist, social worker. So I have a question about, and I can't remember in this conversation that the Cottage Hospital only offers behavioral health services for the insured, emergency behavioral health services for the insured. They don't do so. Gosnold has the contract for the uninsured, correct, Rachel? Is that right?
There's a response, yes.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. I was a hospital social worker. The idea that the town of Nantucket is funding social work services for a hospital feels a little wrong to me. I feel like the hospital is pushing a non-revenue generating service, which social work is. It's always this tension in hospital administration around social work because they can't bill it out. It's an expense with no revenue to offset it. And it's a cost of operating a hospital. It's an important cost. I just struggle with the fact that they're asking the town of Nantucket to pay for that. I don't know where the money came from where I worked for social work services, but I'm just really aware of that tension and that the idea that they're trying to pull it from their expense sheet by handing it off to the town of Nantucket.
But do you feel that way because they're a private hospital? I mean, it used to be the town owned the hospital, right? Or it was.
No, town never owned the hospital.
Yeah, but who owned it before?
It was always a community hospital.
Yeah, but it was
we funded it. We've been funding Peter MacKay's, which is the precursor to the one we have to Sarah's now, but we've been funding this from the far back as I can remember. Probably back into the 70s and 80s, we've been funding this particular piece because they don't have to provide it in the hospital. Because of where we are and the community that we're in, the hospital has done it because it's a lot easier to do it, especially when you have people that are uninsured coming in and you get them their services. So it's been going on for decades. And we've been in this push me, pull me situation with the hospital over who funds this thing. And since Mass General took over, partners, and Peter left, it's become a little bit more of a sticky wicket. Mm. They're required to shift back. I forget what that program is, Rachel, where they have to give back a certain amount of funding to the communities. I don't know why they can't fund that, frankly.
They can't fund themselves with that.
They can't fund themselves back through it. It's specific for community needs, but not specific to them. They can't, like Brooke said.
But they continue to say that this is really not part of the hospital, but it's in the hospital. So why couldn't they take some of that funding towards this when they keep claiming that it's not part of the hospital?
Somebody else would have to be the owner of it.
Yeah, but
and by it, we're referring to what?
If you're talking about like ambulance transports.
Ambulance, yeah.
Those who need inpatient psychiatric, as I was trying to look through their application to see specifically what they were looking for. They would not be able to fund themselves unless it was another organization in the community, and they would contact them and they did the ambulance transport. But
yeah, but I'm talking about the human services part of it, not just the ambulance part of it. I don't know why they can't fund the other part of it.
They couldn't do that as part of their staff in their facility for that funding, is my understanding. It needs to be owned by somebody else and then they could fund it. it's sort of like saying the town would apply for CRC funding for our human services department to provide some kind of use.
Right.
We can't use CRC money to back fund a town.
So I mean, I personally would be more inclined to fund the ambulance transport, because when the hospital built the hospital and they made a decision to get out of the psychiatric services business, they let their staff go. They built a building that doesn't have facilities to serve people in psychiatric crisis. They have agreed to do this transport piece, which I think is a critical element. I know people who've needed it, and it's critical. I feel like the social work piece is more part of their operations. And while I am not, like, I don't want to undermine that. I think it's a critical service. I feel like it's more, the ambulance service is additive, whereas the social work should be part of what they're doing anyway. And I also think that, you know, what Fairwinds is doing is, as asking us to fund, is the uninsured population, the people who are not going to go to the hospital because they don't have insurance, and they may end up with a bill at the end of the day. And so anyway, I'm just going to go back to I would rather peel it back from the hospital. And so do the ambulance part.
How much is that?
And then that's 118, and I don't mind the increase in that at all, because I think, you know, that's realistic. But I'd rather not tell Fairwinds no, because I know their capacity to raise the money elsewhere just isn't there. So.
All right, so if we take out, for the sake of argument at the moment, if we take the 312, where'd it go?
The ambulance is 118,778.10.
Okay, hold on.
118,778.10.
Well, let's take up, you want to fully fund Fairwinds? Then take that out for a second. Take the okay. 312, take the 312, which is 312.
Okay, hold on, let me plug into my spreadsheet.
794.
If we were to level 20. Fund.
So it's 312, 794.20. What did Fairwinds ask for last year?
I can pull that up. Their request this year is 176,323.
And what happened last year?
Yeah, I'll pull that up 1 second.
I don't think it was that much less.
We gave them much less though.
Yeah, because we split it again last year.
Giving them full funding versus giving them level funding were two different things I just heard. So I'm not sure which one you're looking for. So
let me just, for the sake of argument, let me just minus this for a second. 3, 2, 3.
What
right,
do we give us if
right.
level fund?
That would leave, if we level funded, if we get Fairwinds, it's not level funded. They asked for more last year. And we
last year they asked for 242,000.
Yeah.
We're given 116,397.87.
All right. So if I take the 312, 794.20 and minus out the 176,323 that Fairwinds has asked for, that leaves us 136,471.20.
Correct.
Would that be what we would give that to the Cottage Hospital? That would cover the ambulance and some minor portion of the social services. Is that something everybody's in favor of? Or do you want to go 150 to Fairwinds and then give a little more to the hospital?
I would be in favor of fully funding Fairwinds and leaving the balance to the Cottage Hospital. I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say, but that's kind of where my heart's leaning and my head.
John? If you did that, the ambulance funding at fully funding and fully funding Fairwinds, that leaves 17,693.10 for the social work portion of the hospital.
Yeah. John, how do you feel about that?
I got to think about that a little bit.
And your wife or you were on the board at the hospital at one point, weren't you?
No, my wife was on the board. She is now retired from the board after 10 years. And that wasn't part of the world that she inhabited. And we've had no pillow talk about the hospital. Pillow talk does not happen.
Well, I got a question for you. If we give, let's say, the 118 or we're saying 136, sorry, to the hospital, does that mean that they can't employ somebody, or they're not going to employ somebody, or do they figure it out?
Generally speaking, every other year they've figured it out.
Okay.
And I know they're doing some shifting, because when they were here, Brooke, is that's correct? When they were here, I think they said they were giving her back her staff because they had mutated that office to the point of where staff was all over the hospital. So I think they're recreating the humans that, you know, social services staff in there. They would have to figure out how to pay for
it. Let me jump in with just one thought. We have a brand new president of the hospital, and from my impression, but that's all I have is an impression, that there is a considerable focus on reorganization and streamlining the hospital in a more professional way than has happened before. That's just a general impression without any specific knowledge of any specific thing that's happening.
That's my understanding as well, which is why I think she's getting back her staff. So they're putting people where they need to be in that hospital, finally.
I will say this, I do want to defend the hospital in this instance. We leaned on them to apply for a grant last year, the opioid grant for rural communities, and they didn't get that grant, but they put a lot of time into it. And I hope they'll keep applying for those grants, and maybe they'll get one day. But as Linda, I think, has pointed out, it's really hard for us to get them. But I felt like it was important for them to apply for that to show us that they are pursuing other avenues to get money. And they did do that. So I guess I'm a little hesitant for me personally to, I like the discussion, but for me personally, I am a little hesitant just to say, hey, you're going to bear the brunt, because we don't want to cut from other places.
Well, what happens if we give Fairwinds the 150, cut them, it's still more than last year, and it's just a little less than they're asking for this year. And then that would sort of even out between the two. That would give the Cottage Hospital about 160,000 of what they asked for, and Fairwinds would only be cut about 26,000. Is that a little more equitable? That's almost one position at the hospital.
I'd love to try to bring this to, like, by program funding, maybe a little bit between the two organizations, and think about it in terms of, like, what might each organization have to pare back on. Like, we've talked about the hospital a little bit, but if we don't give Fairwinds their full request, I'm having a hard time because it's mostly text. I really, really want charts on this program, this amount of money next year, so that we can more easily both make the decision and then write the contracts.
Yeah, per line item kind of thing, because the CPC requires that. We require an absolute breakdown on line items, and we will cut professional services, and we will cut, you know, Nantucket premiums, and we will cut certain things to get down to the actual penny. It's more difficult in the human services field to do that, but I think it would be helpful next year to have that specific breakdown and say, what can you not do without? What we asked them is that, what can you not do without? We asked them to give us a priority list. So if we had a priority list, that would be helpful.
I like that if they can. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine, Jill. You're a board member. I'm not.
You know more than I do.
I was just going to say the problem with Fairwind's application is it says that the funding they asked is to be devoted to underwriting Fairwind sliding fee services to the under and uninsured, cost meeting the demand for psychiatry services, and translation services who used in a discretionary way among the 3 programs. So what they're asking for is the funding that they can allocate wherever they see fit.
Wherever the need is, yeah.
The best way this group should provide that funding. But those are the 3 areas that they're looking at.
Yep, and I think that's the psychiatric piece comes to about 31,000, I think is what they're asking for in that. If I'm getting this right. But they're asking for discretion on how to use it, right? So.
I think they're doing that because the need for psychiatric care, you know, mental health has suffered this year. And so that may decrease as we open up more, and then they be able to fund that more than this more. You know, I think it's a moving target with mental health right now because we're still in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about the grant is, again, the hospital has the capability to write the grant. And that usually means that if they ever could get these grants, it goes to these other organizations. Like Fairwinds would benefit from that, I think, and ASAP NAMI would. So is the money for the hospital going to fund any of these people like Sarah, who wrote the grant last time, her salary?
Partially, it covers, it's always covered units, basically. It covers partial people. I mean, we've covered half persons in Peter MacKay's office. It's always been very tricky.
Rachel, do you know?
The way they have it written ultimately is yes. It covers the salary. They're asking $61,528 for social workers, $7,352 for an application counselor, and then additional clinical support, which might be maybe non-licensed staff or others that they have that are getting trained for $23,464 is my assumption. But basically outside of the ambulance, the way they have it written is staff hours.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that without the funding, they would cut staff or services.
Well, we've had that discussion.
Sarah might have had is that things would get prioritized differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's what they've said in the past when we've had the same discussion year after year after year. What would get cut if we didn't fully fund you? And they said they'd always find it somewhere, or they'd rearrange people, or, you know, we never really get a very clear answer, ever. But we know that they somehow massage it and get through.
Yeah, I guess I just find it really ironic. I mean, again, when last year I was on FinCom and they said, hey, we're just going to come for this one time on the ambulance. But then all of a sudden this year on this committee, we're saying we're prioritizing the ambulance over people working there. And there just seems to be a big discrepancy for me over the vision that either the FinCom had or the previous FinCom. Last year was only my first year. So I'm still a little confused about that.
I have one question I have is, if we don't fund the ambulance service, I think it will go away.
Yes, they've had trouble with this before.
Whereas if we don't, if we choose to under less than request on the social work side, it's work that I just don't know. I don't know.
Oh, and Brooke, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I know. I just wanted to point that out. I'm a little confused about what the priority is. I thought that was our job, was to figure out what the priority is. And I would love it if the hospital would just tell us, if we said, hey, we only have this much left, you know, Tell us what you want it for, and put it on them. Because if they say we really want it for this, if we know you're going to cut something and this is really where we want it to go, then at least we know. I'm really into transparency. So knowing the information is the most important thing. We're going to fund them. They're going to get a significant amount of money. It's just, we're not getting any more money than what we have unless we want to go back and level fund everybody. I still honestly think we could cut more from the food pantry. I know, Linda, you're going to kill me for saying that.
I'm going to kill you.
I'm sorry. I just feel like they have a lot of money.
They don't really.
I didn't hear it. Jill?
Yeah.
Oh, you're here now.
Say that again, I didn't hear it.
I was just saying, I feel like they have a lot of money and they had access to a lot of really generous donations this year.
Now, who?
The food pantry.
Oh, the food pantry, okay.
But they may not get that next year. But Bert, did you just come on? I want to bring you up to speed.
Yeah, I came on about 15 minutes ago.
All right, so you know we're down to 312,794.20 at the moment, and we're 74,652.14 short. So we're down to Interfaith and Fair Winds.
No, Cottage Hospital.
Not Interfaith, Cottage Hospital and Fair Winds. And we're debating whether to fully fund Fair Winds, and then the hospital would get about 136,000, or somehow massage between the two. Last year they were split equally as to who lost whatever, but people are leaning more towards funding almost fully Fair Winds and talking about what's going to happen at the Cottage Hospital, but fully funding the ambulance and the other 17,000 and change going to the social department, or how to work this. You have any ideas?
Well, I would rather short Fair Winds more than the Cottage Hospital, but they're both going to be a lot less than what they've asked for because we just don't have that money.
Well, is it, Brooke, you brought up a good point. Jill, you brought up a good point. Should we have another meeting, and it's got to be fairly soon because of the deadline. Should we have another meeting and then Rachel can ask Sarah or ask the hospital, the powers that be over there, what is the priority? What's going to happen to social if we only fund the ambulance and the other 17,000 goes to social? Can somebody ask them what the impact of that's going to be on them, provided we fully fund Fair Winds or close to fully fund? Does that sound like something?
I like that. Again, I just like transparency.
I also think, what if we should ask the same question of Fair Winds? What if we took 25,000 out of your grant request? What would the impact be on which programs? What do you imagine the impact would be on which programs?
Yeah, and I think Fair Winds is more of a moving target than the hospital. They have fixed costs. Fair Winds is, I could have 300 people needing mental assistance next week, and I can have 2. So right. Rachel, what do you think about those questions?
I apologize. When Brooke first started speaking, everything froze on me. So what I have so far is contact NCH to see what the impact will be on a decreased funding. If we fund the ambulance, what might happen to the social service?
Yes, and the same thing with Fair Winds. What is their priority if they get 150 instead of 176? Because that seems to be where it's probably heading.
Okay, I will probably not indicate any dollars, but I will ask them if there is a decreased funding, what is their priority to fund?
Okay.
And the only other place I see for, I don't want to call it sorry, real quick, what did Health Imperatives ask for last year?
Give me 1 second. I think it was 75 and we gave them 75.
Okay.
It was 75.
Yes,
yeah.
They asked for 75 and they were given 75.
Okay, So, you know, do we want to get 5,000? Is it worth going back and saying to all these groups, we do 5,000 less or something like that? I don't know.
Some of them, it depends on, you know, that you're looking for the biggest bang for the buck.
Yeah.
And,
oh, I agree. I just didn't know if is it more democratic to do it that way?
Yeah, we've tried that before, and I don't see, you know, cutting 2 here, cutting 1 there. I mean, that's a big impact to some of these smaller places. We've looked at that before to cut, you know, 5,000 here, 5,000 there. I think it's going to be tough to do that to people, except for maybe 5,000 off a safe place and another 5,000 out of health imperatives. That'll give us 84,000. That would cut those other 2 less. I mean, that's something to consider. But I think Rachel getting the answers will give you a little bit more clarity.
I think the thing that sticks in my mind is the fundraising capacity outside of each of these organizations.
I agree, but I'm sure it's not easy for the hospital to raise money for ambulance services either. It's not just falling from the sky. I know they have a lot of money. Gosh, I don't want to go there, but they've had quite a year, and I'm sure they've been inundated, as Brooke is saying, with even more ambulance transfers. I just didn't know that that was the priority for the town of Nantucket to fund. But again, it's all interrelated, I think, to social services island-wide. So it's not like I feel like they're calling up ambulances to take people places. I mean, it's a big, long process.
And it's expensive given the number of people that they carry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, not having the capacity to have I brought this up before, having an ambulance here, we'd have to pay the guys to go over and come back. But it seems to me it would be better to have that ability here rather than have to contract with those guys on the Cape, which then get on the boat, come over and go back. I mean, and then you have to bring the person. It's just nightmare. It's a nightmare.
I wish we could use one of our ambulances. I know they asked for a new ambulance this year. The fire station did.
It's a matter of staffing. I was an EMT for 10 years, and it's always going to be a matter of staffing because they don't carry as many people on shift as other departments do. And if they have to take guys that are off shift, God, and heaven forbid there's an emergency here. That's one of the reasons why they don't want to do it, and the liability.
There's a union issue with it.
Yeah.
Along with staffing. My slight understanding, just to throw a little bit in there, I think this group definitely is the one who would try to determine and prioritize where the town's funding and the needs would go. My understanding from the prior FinCom or even select board's response to the last 2 years of the ambulance funding was the method used to acquire the funding. So one was
I talked to Denise about that, Rachel, though, and that's not what she said. That was an issue.
Well, it was because ultimately doing things like that, the request should come through the CRC to prioritize. So this year was the first year it's done. It's not to say that it's not a priority or not.
Right.
It ultimately was one of the technical issues with them through a warrant article versus.
And to avoid the warrant article, they wanted it to come through an official channel as opposed to being a vote at town meeting.
Yeah, but even before that, when David Wirth was chair, David said, we're not paying for this every year. That's how I remember. Like, this isn't something that should come through us at all. So that I talk
go through CRC to prioritize.
You guys can all call Denise and ask her. It wasn't, not that it shouldn't come through CRC, and that might be the best way and the most transparent way forward. It's just that it was a big ticket. It was unexpected. And this last year's not the first year. It was just the first year it came up that way, I guess. Because
Rachel, was that part of the reason for the increased funding from 450, from whatever it was to 650? No?
The CRC increased funding has just been based on the request overall from the agencies.
Yeah, the public need. It really didn't have anything to do with the ambulance at that point.
Throughout this process, my understanding of not wanting to fund it and such through the warrant articles was based on how the funding source was being done, and that it not a town service to fund it that way, but they should be requesting it through CRC to determine if the town should pay it through that way.
Yeah, through a grant process instead of here comes town meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So,
So do we want to postpone a final on this until after we get the answers from the hospital and Fairwinds? Does that sound like a good plan?
yep.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have an idea of when they can meet again?
Can I just ask one more question? Jill, do you want Health Imperatives to be asked the same question?
I wouldn't mind because they were asking for money for newer things this year, although then they came back and said they didn't really need any money, like for the PFLAG. So I didn't understand why they put that in there if they didn't need any money for it, or they need a little bit money maybe just to put the groups together. So yeah, maybe they could tell us what, what it affects if they aren't fully funded.
Yeah, that's the only other big ticket item in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's big, and it's a big jump from what they got last year.
Yeah. All right. Does that sound like a plan, Rachel?
Linda, you'll be happy to know I did not ask that. I'm not asking the food pantry to do.
Yeah. Move on. Move on. Nothing to see here.
For a meeting, how does Friday afternoon work for people?
You'd only be able to do Friday afternoon if you can get it posted like right now.
Right,
I've got a dentist appointment. I've got a fairly sizable dentist appointment at noon.
Can we do Tuesday? Monday's President's Day.
Yep. Tuesday. I have HDC at 4:30. I have
how about 10 o'clock then?
I can't.
I have community preservation at 10 o'clock. I can at noon on Tuesday.
I can do that.
I have passports on Tuesdays.
Oh yeah.
I have passports. I do passports.
What about Thursday the 18th?
I do passports on Thursdays too.
Oh, fine then. How about Wednesday the 17th?
In the morning.
Wednesday the 17th?
That's fine.
I could do, not in the morning. I could do noon to between noon and 2:30.
I have planning board at 1 o'clock.
Well, this shouldn't take more than an hour, right?
Well, yeah, we're down to just 2, just like always.
Can we? Can anybody do it at 11 o'clock on Wednesday?
I cannot.
And you do passports in the afternoons, correct?
Yep.
So maybe Thursday morning.
Thursday morning?
I can't, sorry.
Anytime Thursday.
Except in the afternoon, Linda.
Right.
No, the morning is just.
How about noon on Tuesday? Did everybody say no to noon on Tuesday or 1 o'clock Tuesday?
Hold on.
That would be running into passport time.
Oh, what time is passport?
It starts at 2. Do you think you'd be done by 2?
Well, how about noon on Tuesday?
As long as we're not more than an hour. I have a affordable housing trust meeting at 1.
11:30 on Tuesday? I can't imagine the CPC meeting is going to go very long.
I could do 11:30 on Tuesday.
Jill?
I will make it happen, ladies and gents.
All right.
11:30, is that what it is, ladies?
Yeah, 11:30 on Tuesday.
Good, that's good for me.
Okay.
That's Tuesday the 16th at 11:30, yes?
Yes.
I won't be able to join you until maybe noon.
Rachel will miss you.
No.
Well, Rachel's going to have the information from those entities.
Well, hopefully I will have it by then and it would get emailed around to you.
Okay. All right. And we'll be still here at 12. We'll be here at 12 anyway.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you for that. Okay, Rachel, that's got to get filed because Monday's a holiday. So we're sort of backed up against the posting time.
Yeah, Anne's going to have to check.
Oh, yeah, right.
Off with Erica And
You're
then
gonna have
if that's
to,
available, she'll have to get it posted.
by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah, so she'll
No,
have
because
to,
Monday doesn't count because Monday's a holiday.
That's right. So it has to be posted by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
That doesn't give us the 48 hours because Monday's a holiday.
Yes, it does. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning gives us the 48 hours.
as a backup in the event that maybe Tuesday at 11:30 doesn't work, did I hear like noon to 1 on Wednesday, the 17th?
I've got planning board at 1. That's all I can do is an hour.
Well, that's why I'm saying noon to 1. It would have to be only
Yep.
an hour.
I could do that.
All right, so Anne, maybe that's a backup in the event that Erica says 11:30 Tuesday does not work.
Okay.
And I will get to emailing those agencies.
And I hope Dorothy's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the witch. She sent me an email this morning.
Huh.
So weird.
I did hear back from her. I think she's not feeling well.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
Well, we're making progress. So please tell her we missed her though, because I really would love to know what she thought of all that.
So would I.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
He's drilled
That's
down, so I'm pretty sure also.
Yeah.
I'll send Ann the details on the figures that we have to date.
Okay.
Okie dokie, guys.
All right.
So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
That's Brooke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Bert seconded. Now I have to go through roll call. John,
Guy,
Jill,
Aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
and myself. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thanks for doing
All
it,
right,
Linda.
thanks,
Good job.
everybody.
Hey, John.
Bye.
Hey, John.
yeah,
Thanks, Rachel.
Are you all set with your shots?
I've had my first one.
Okay.
All right, guys, leave the meeting.
And I don't mean Jack Daniels.